Have you ever watched someone underestimated rise to steal the spotlight? In the dazzling Kensington Grand, Sophie Taylor, a humble waitress, hides a secret talent that's about to stun a room of onlookers. When a billionaire's daughter tries to humiliate her, Sophie's response will leave jaws on the floor. This is a story of hidden brilliance, courage under fire, and a triumph that'll make you cheer. Ready to see a waitress rewrite her destiny? Sophie Taylor glided through the bustling dining room of the Kensington Grand, her blonde wavy hair neatly pinned in a bun that framed her face with effortless poise. She balanced a tray of crystal glasses filled with sparkling water, her black skirt and red shirt uniform hugging her frame just right, a picture of quiet professionalism in the five-star hotel's elegant chaos. It was mid-afternoon, and the room hummed with the low chatter of guests, business deals sealing over lunch, couples lingering on dessert. Sophie set the glasses down at a table where an elderly couple, Margaret and Henry Lawson, smiled up at her with familiar warmth. "Thank you, dear," Margaret said softly, her eyes crinkling. "You always make this place feel like home." Sophie nodded with a genuine smile, replying, "It's my pleasure. Can I get you anything else?" Henry shook his head, but his gaze held a quiet admiration for her steady grace amid the rush. Across the room, Emily Kensington perched at her corner table, her pink three-piece suit sharp and commanding, white shirt crisp beneath it, high heels tapping impatiently against the floor. Her blonde curls bounced as she scrolled through her iPhone, but her eyes kept darting toward Sophie. Emily's father, Richard, owned this hotel and half the skyline in the city, but that didn't stop the knot of envy twisting in her gut every time she saw the waitress. Sophie wasn't just beautiful, she moved with a confidence that turned heads without trying. And right now, Emily's boyfriend, Jason Moore, in his ripped jeans and beige shirt, his blonde hair tousled just so, was one of those heads turning. He leaned back in his chair, watching Sophie serve the Lawsons, and murmured to Emily, "She's got that whole thing down, doesn't she? Handles everything like it's no big deal." Emily's grip tightened on her phone. Jason's casual compliment stung like a slap, unwitting, sure, but it fueled the fire she'd been nursing. "Yeah, well," she muttered under her breath, her voice laced with acid, "I'll show you she's just a pretty face with nothing upstairs." Emily waved Sophie over with a flick of her wrist, her smirk already in place as she decided to turn this into a show. The dining room wasn't packed, but enough eyes were around. Chloe Rivera, the Gen Z influencer in her stylish dress, fiddling with her phone camera, Samantha Lee, the journalist at a nearby table, sipping coffee and jotting notes, even casual guest Olivia Chen, glancing up from her book. Sophie approached, notepad in hand, her expression calm and attentive. "What can I get for you today?" she asked evenly. Emily leaned forward, her voice rising just enough to draw attention. "Oh, nothing too complicated for you, I hope. Just a simple order, but let's make it interesting. Beauty without brains, right? Let's see if you can even handle this." She rattled off a convoluted request, a custom salad with ingredients twisted into pretentious specifics, ending with a demand for it to be prepared exactly as she described, no substitutions. Sophie didn't flinch. She jotted it down swiftly, repeating it back verbatim to confirm, her tone professional and unflustered. "Got it. I'll have that out shortly." But Emily wasn't done. She wanted the spectacle. As Sophie turned to leave, Emily called out louder, pulling in the room's gaze. "Hold on. You think that's all it takes? Serving tables like some robot? Intelligence is what really matters in life, don't you agree, Jason?" Jason shifted uncomfortably, his handsome features creasing in confusion, but Emily pressed on, her eyes locked on Sophie. If she had any brains, she wouldn't be stuck here, wiping up spills. But hey, people assume jobs reflect capability. It's not always true. Sometimes circumstances force you to bury your dreams deep down. The words hung in the air, sharp and pointed, as if Emily were dissecting Sophie's life right there. Chloe subtly angled her phone, capturing the tension, while Samantha's pen paused, her interest peaked. Margaret and Henry exchanged a glance, their admiration for Sophie's dignity deepening in the face of this rudeness. Sophie paused, her back straightening just a fraction, but her face remained composed, a mask of quiet strength honed from years of setbacks she kept hidden. Once, she'd been on track for something bigger, a linguistics prodigy with dreams of diplomacy, traveling the world, translating in high-stakes rooms. But life had derailed that, family illnesses draining savings, unexpected debts piling up, forcing her to trade embassies for elegant dining rooms. She supported herself here, nurturing her talents in stolen moments, practicing languages late at night, reading foreign news on breaks. Now, facing Emily's taunt, she felt a spark ignite, not anger, but resolve. "Is there something else I can help with?" Sophie asked, her voice steady, refusing to rise to the bait. Emily's smirk widened, sensing an opening. She leaned back, crossing her legs, and pulled out her phone again, pretending to check something but really building the drama. "Actually, let's put that theory to the test. Translate this into French." She cleared her throat dramatically and recited a snippet from a business email she just skimmed, something about market expansions and investments, phrased in convoluted English to trip anyone up. "Let's see if your beauty can keep up with your brain," Emily added, her tone dripping with condescension, loud enough for the nearby tables to hear. Jason's eyes widened, caught between amusement and unease, murmuring, "Emily, come on, that's not fair." But Emily ignored him, her curls bouncing as she gestured for Sophie to respond, the room's attention now fully on them. Chloe's camera rolled discreetly, Samantha leaned in closer, and even Olivia set her book down, intrigued. Sophie met Emily's gaze without a hint of hesitation, her mind already shifting gears. The words Emily had thrown out were straightforward to her, a mere warm-up after years of immersion in languages. She took a breath, and in flawless French, she translated the passage, her pronunciation precise, the grammar impeccable, rolling off her tongue as naturally as English. The room stilled, Margaret's smile grew, Henry's nod was approving. Emily's smirk faltered for a split second, but she recovered, waving it off. "Lucky guess. Anyone can memorize a phrase or two. Try Spanish now, same thing." Sophie didn't miss a beat, switching seamlessly to Spanish, the translation fluid and accurate, her voice carrying a subtle rhythm that hinted at deeper fluency. Emily's face flushed, her high heels shifting under the table as frustration crept in. Jason let out a low whistle, impressed despite himself. "Whoa, that's spot on." From afar, Richard Kensington observed from the edge of the room, his 50-year-old frame leaning against a pillar, his sharp eyes taking in Sophie's composure. He'd built his empire spotting talent, and this waitress was radiating it. Chloe's phone captured every word, her influencer instincts buzzing at the viral potential. Samantha scribbled furiously, sensing a story about hidden depths in everyday people. Olivia murmured to herself, "Impressive." But Emily wasn't backing down yet. She straightened her pink suit, her voice sharpening. "Fine, that was easy. Let's see Mandarin. If you're so smart, prove it." Sophie paused for just a moment, her bun catching the light as she tilted her head slightly, then launched into Mandarin, the tones perfect, the meaning conveyed with elegance that made the challenge seem trivial. The elderly couple clapped softly, Margaret whispering to Henry, "She's extraordinary." Emily's curls seemed to wilt as her plan unraveled, her iPhone forgotten in her lap. Jason's gaze lingered on Sophie a beat too long, admiration clear, which only twisted Emily's envy tighter. Richard stepped a bit closer, his presence subtle but commanding, as the room's energy shifted toward Sophie. She stood there, graceful as ever, waiting for the next barb, but inside, a quiet triumph stirred, the first crack in the walls she'd built around her pa's dreams. Emily opened her mouth to retort, her voice cracking just a touch. That's not possible. How did you?" Sophie cut in gently, her tone still professional but now laced with a quiet authority. "I've studied languages for years. It's not about proving anything, It's just what I do. Emily Kensington, in her sharp pink suit, her blonde curls now slightly disheveled from her own agitation, scoffed loudly, cutting Sophie off. "Oh, please," Emily said, her voice rising to ensure every guest heard. "Spare us the sob story. You're here because you couldn't cut it anywhere else. Let's not pretend those little language tricks mean anything." She leaned forward, her iPhone clattering onto the table, her high heels tapping a restless rhythm. The room's attention tightened. Chloe Rivera's phone camera stayed steady, capturing every word for her followers, while Samantha Lee's pen scratched faster, her journalist instincts sensing a deeper story. Jason Moore shifted in his seat, his ripped jeans and beige shirt casual against Emily's polished venom. "Emily, ease up," he murmured, his handsome face creasing with discomfort. "She answered your challenge. Fair and square." But Emily ignored him, her eyes locked on Sophie, determined to claw back control. "You think you're so clever, don't you?" she snapped, standing now, her white shirt crisp under her suit jacket. "Let's try something harder. Translate this. The intricacies of global markets demand nuanced strategies, not just rote memorization. Go on, in German this time." Her smirk returned, sharper, as if she'd finally cornered her prey. The elderly couple, Margaret and Henry Lawson, exchanged a look of disapproval, Henry muttering, "This girl's digging her own grave." Olivia Chin, the casual guest, leaned forward, her book forgotten, while Richard Kensington, the billionaire owner, edged closer from his spot near the pillar, his sharp eyes narrowing. Sophie didn't hesitate. In flawless German, she translated Emily's phrase, her voice clear and measured, each word landing with precision. The room stirred. Margaret clapped softly, her smile warm with pride, while Samantha's eyes gleamed, her notes now a flurry of ideas for an article on underestimated talent. Chloe's camera caught the moment, her influencer instincts buzzing with the drama's viral potential. Emily's face reddened, her curls bouncing as she shook her head. "No way," she spat, her voice cracking with frustration. "You're cheating somehow. Google Translate in your pocket? Nobody's that good." She stepped closer, her heels clicking aggressively on the polished floor, pointing a manicured finger at Sophie. "Admit it, you're just a waitress who got lucky with a few phrases. You don't belong in a place like this, not really." The accusation stung, but Sophie's face remained composed, her years of swallowing setbacks, family debts, abandoned dreams of diplomacy, arming her with unshakable calm. "I don't need to cheat," she said quietly, her tone firm but not defensive. "I've worked hard to learn what I know." The simplicity of her words only fueled Emily's rage. "Worked hard?" Emily laughed, a harsh sound that drew more eyes. "You're wiping tables for a living. If you're so talented, why are you stuck here? Tell me, what's your excuse?" The room fell silent, the weight of Emily's cruelty hanging heavy. Jason rubbed his neck, clearly torn, his earlier admiration for Sophie now a wedge between him and his girlfriend. "Emily, stop," he said, louder this time, but she waved him off, her focus unrelenting. From across the room, Richard Kensington had seen enough. The 50-year-old billionaire, dressed in a tailored gray suit, moved with the quiet authority of a man who owned everything in sight. His presence alone shifted the air, guests straightening instinctively as he approached. Emily didn't notice him at first, too consumed by her need to tear Sophie down. "Go on," she pressed, her voice mocking. "Tell everyone why a so-called genius is stuck serving my salad." Sophie opened her mouth, but before she could speak, Richard's deep voice cut through. "That's enough, Emily." The words were calm but carried the weight of absolute command. Emily froze, her curls falling still as she turned to face her father. The room seemed to hold its breath, Chloe's camera subtly tilted to catch Richard, while Samantha's pen paused, sensing a turning point. Richard stepped closer, his eyes flicking to Sophie with a mix of curiosity and respect before settling on his daughter. "You're embarrassing yourself," he said, his tone low but firm. "And you're embarrassing this hotel." Emily's face flushed deeper, her high heels shifting as she tried to regain her footing. Dad, she's just a waitress, I'm proving a point. Richard raised a hand, silencing her. You've proved nothing except your own pettiness. He turned to Sophie, his expression softening slightly. Miss Taylor, I apologize for my daughter's behavior. That was uncalled for. Sophie nodded, her blonde bun steady, her voice even. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Richard's gaze lingered on her, his mind clearly working. He'd built his empire by spotting potential where others saw none, and Sophie's composure under fire, paired with her linguistic mastery, hadn't gone unnoticed. You've got quite a gift, he said almost to himself, then louder, how many languages do you speak? Sophie hesitated, not used to being the center of such attention, but answered honestly. 7, fluently. A few others conversationally. The room murmured. Margaret whispered to Henry, remarkable girl, and Olivia Chin nodded in agreement. Chloe's camera zoomed in, catching Sophie's quiet confidence, while Samantha scribbled, her article now taking shape around a story of hidden brilliance. Emily, humiliated, tried to interject. Dad, you can't seriously, Richard cut her off with a look. Go to my office, Emily. Now. His tone left no room for argument. Emily's jaw tightened, her pink suit suddenly seeming less commanding as she grabbed her iPhone and stormed out, her heels echoing angrily. Jason watched her go, then glanced at Sophie, his expression a mix of guilt and admiration. Sorry about that, he muttered to her before following Emily, his beige shirt disappearing through the dining room doors. Richard turned back to Sophie, his voice softer but direct. Miss Taylor, I'd like to speak with you privately after your shift. I've got a role in mind, Director of International Guest Relations. It's a new position, but I think your skills would suit it perfectly. Sophie's eyes widened slightly, the offer catching her off guard. The role was a leap, coordinating with global clients, using her languages daily, a chance to step back into the world she'd once dreamed of. Thank you, Mr. Kensington, she said, her voice steady but her heart racing. I'd be honored to discuss it. Richard nodded, a faint smile breaking his stern demeanor. Good. I'll see you at 6. He turned to leave, pausing to nod at Margaret and Henry, who beamed back, clearly delighted for Sophie. As the dining room slowly returned to its usual hum, Chloe lowered her phone, already typing a caption for her video. Waitress shuts down billionaire's daughter with epic skills. Samantha approached Sophie, her journalist curiosity alight. Mind if I ask you a few questions later? Your story's worth telling. Sophie smiled, a bit overwhelmed but gracious. Sure, maybe after my shift. Margaret reached out, patting Sophie's hand. You're a gem, dear. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Sophie thanked her, her composure intact but her mind spinning with the weight of what had just happened. A public humiliation turned into an unexpected opportunity. She returned to her duties, clearing plates with the same grace as always, but now the guests' glances held respect, not just politeness. Olivia murmured to a nearby table, "That's someone going places." Sophie overheard, a small smile tugging at her lips as she carried a tray back to the kitchen, the spark of her old dreams flickering brighter. Sophie moved through the Kensington Grand's dining room, her tray now empty, but the weight of the moment still buzzing in her veins. The chandeliers cast a golden glow over the polished tables, and the hum of conversation had softened, though eyes still followed her, some with curiosity, others with newfound respect. Her blonde bun held firm, her red shirt and black skirt uniform a quiet contrast to the upheaval she'd just weathered. Richard Kensington's offer, Director of International Guest Relations, echoed in her mind, a lifeline to the dreams she'd buried under years of family struggles and financial strain. She caught Margaret Lawson's warm smile from across the room, the elderly woman whispering to her husband, Henry, "That girl's going to shine." Sophie's lips curved slightly, but she kept moving, her grace unshaken. At a nearby table, Chloe Rivera was furiously editing her video, her stylish dress catching the light as she typed a caption, "From waitress to legend, watch this epic takedown." Her followers were already flooding her notifications, the clip of Sophie's linguistic triumph spreading fast. Samantha Lee, the journalist, lingered at her table, her notebook now filled with observations about Sophie's poise and hidden talents. She glanced up, catching Sophie's eye, and offered a nod as if to say, "Your story's not done yet." Olivia Chin, the casual guest, had returned to her book but kept stealing glances, murmuring to a neighbor, "She's got something special." The room felt different now, charged with the aftermath of Emily's failed spectacle and Sophie's quiet victory. Emily, meanwhile, had not returned. In Richard's office, her pink suit seemed out of place against the dark wood and stern silence. Richard stood behind his desk, his tailored gray suit immaculate, his expression unyielding. "You crossed a line, Emily," he said, his voice low but cutting. "You don't humiliate my staff to stroke your ego." Emily's curls hung limp, her iPhone clutched tightly as she tried to defend herself. "I was just testing her, Dad. She's nobody, why are you taking her side?" Richard's eyes narrowed, his patience thinning. "She's not nobody. She's more capable than you've ever bothered to be. And if you can't respect that, you don't belong in this hotel's operations." Emily's face crumpled, the sting of his words sharper than her earlier taunts. She stormed out, her high heels clicking furiously, passing Jason Moore in the hallway. He tried to stop her, his beige shirt slightly wrinkled now, his handsome face clouded with concern. Wait," but she brushed past him, leaving him standing alone, his thoughts drifting back to Sophie's steady gaze. Back in the dining room, Sophie cleared a final table, her shift nearing its end. The Lawsons waved her over, their faces beaming. "You were magnificent, dear," Margaret said, her voice soft but firm. "Don't let anyone dim that light of yours." Henry nodded, adding, "We've been coming here for years, and you're the best thing about this place." Sophie blushed slightly, her professionalism softening into gratitude. "Thank you both. That means a lot." As she turned away, Samantha approached, her journalist's notebook tucked under her arm. "Sophie, I'm writing a piece on unsung talent. People who get overlooked but have extraordinary skills. I'd love to feature you. Can we talk tomorrow?" Sophie hesitated, then nodded. "I'd like that. After my morning shift." Samantha smiled, sensing a story that could resonate far beyond the hotel's walls. As 6 o'clock approached, Sophie slipped into the staff room to freshen up, her heart pounding at the thought of meeting Richard. She smoothed her uniform, checking her bun in a small mirror, and took a deep breath. The years of sacrifice, nights spent studying languages while her family struggled, days pouring coffee instead of negotiating international deals, had led to this. She walked to Richard's office, her steps steady but her mind racing. The door was open, and Richard stood by a window, the city skyline sprawling behind him. He turned, gesturing to a chair. "Sit please, Miss Taylor." His tone was warm but businesslike, a man who valued talent above all else. Sophie sat, her hands clasped, waiting. "I meant what I said earlier," Richard began, leaning against his desk. "Your skills are exceptional. 7 languages, fluency like that, it's rare. The Director of International Guest Relations role would have you working with our global clientele, handling communications, ensuring their experience here is seamless. It's not just translation, it's diplomacy, strategy, connection. I think you're made for it." Sophie's breath caught, the weight of the opportunity sinking in. It was everything she'd once dreamed of, a chance to step back into the world of high-stakes communication, to use her mind fully again. "I'm honored, Mr. Kensington," she said, her voice steady but laced with emotion. "I've always wanted to work in a role like that. Circumstances, they got in the way. But I'm ready to take this on." Richard nodded, his sharp eyes softening. "I see that. And I don't offer positions lightly. You've got the kind of resilience and talent this company needs. Start Monday, We'll handle the details tomorrow. He extended a hand, and Sophie shook it, her grip firm, a quiet fire in her eyes. Thank you, sir. I won't let you down. As she left his office, the Kensington Grand buzzed with whispers of Sophie's triumph, Chloe's viral video exploding online, and Samantha's article, The Waitress Who Spoke 7 Languages, gaining traction. Margaret and Henry cheered, "You're going to soar," as Sophie, in her red and black uniform, smiled, ready for her new role. Guests nodded with respect. Olivia Chen saluted. To new beginnings, as Sophie, no longer just a waitress, embraced her rekindled